Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Monday, March 2nd, 2026. I am Dave Biddle. Very happy to be joined by Juck Miletti. I didn't want to get your last name wrong, Mleti, because one of my favorite pizza places in Columbus is this little hole in the wall called Minelli's. So I thought I was worried going to call you Minelli. The late, great Dwayne Long turned me onto that place long ago. But Juck, it's been great getting to know you the last couple of months, and thank you for joining me on the show today.
I'm a longtime Bucknutter, Dave. Very, very thrilling for me to be on with you this morning.
For those that are wondering, Dan Rubin is in New York, and I thought this would be a great time to have Juck on the show. We talked months ago. I'd love to have you on the show, and then we were on the Bill and Doug show last week, and I'm like, I got to get Juck on. So Dan will be back tomorrow, but Juck and I are going to talk about a bunch of Buckeye stuff. Matt Patricia on the McAfee show and what he said, and can they reload as much as we need them to reload on defense? Obviously, the combine, we're going to get into that. And Juck's already talked about this apparently, but I do want to get into Cincinnati suing Brendan Sorsby for $1 million. It's funny, when I texted you yesterday, I wanted to talk about that. You're like, I just did a show about that.
No. I just recorded it. I didn't put it out yet.
Oh, okay. 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 So I am beating you to the punch, kind of.
You are.
Kind of. All right. So that was a really good interview with Patricia. My YouTube algorithm is on point. I just pulled it up and it was like, bam. And it was so good. It was so informative. AJ Hawk being there, I think, just adds to it. It was just so informative. He seems pretty confident, despite the fact they're going to lose 4 first-round picks off that defense, that they're going to be able to reload, Juck.
When we look at Patricia and all of a sudden you bring in all these veteran guys who are guys that, and we've talked about the guys. There's not many of them that stand out as just like these. This is going to be a superstar guy. But these are mature guys who've had relatively good careers. And it almost feels to me like they're coming to Matt Patricia finishing school. And I'm sure he played a big part in the selection process, the personality types that he wanted. And I feel quite confident that that he feels good about these guys. And when we look at the overall talent of this defense, no, it's not going to be as talented with high-level talent as it was last year. I almost feel like, Dave, there were times last year where Patricia got bored and had to sit back, and the best way to win was just to let them go smother people, and they did that. Now he gets to get a little more involved because he doesn't quite have that ridiculous talent. That probably feels like a little bit more of a challenge. I think it's a challenge. He's up for it. I'm not doubting him.
People are loving the fact that we got Juck in here. And tell the people who don't know, we have a lot of mutual friends. A lot of people in here are big fans of you. How did you get started with Juck on Bucks? When did that get started? Because you've blown up, man. You do a great job. Like, how did you get started, and when did you get started with Juck on Bucks?
So about 2.5 years ago, I started realizing that there was podcasts that I listened to in audio form on YouTube. I never knew it. I had always wanted to do a YouTube show just to kind of putz around, and I started it right after the Missouri Cotton Bowl. I was so salty. I was like, all right, I'm ordering some stuff and I'm fired up, and here we go. And I just started. And I think people kind of like, having it both from a fan perspective. And then I've kind of evolved and started working with Buckeye Huddle, and I can add maybe a little bit more knowledge to that. And it's just kind of gone really well, man. Ton of support.
You've got the best backdrop in all of the Buckeye podcast world.
Thank you.
I love it. I know I'm not the first one to tell you that. Yeah, when you look at this defense, like, man, just having Patricia back is just huge. Yeah, I mean, as you said, they're not going to have the star power of Caleb Downs and Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese and Caden McDonald, but I still expect this to be a top 5 defense nationally.
I agree. Absolutely, man. These guys, you got Patricia, and we look at the amount of talent that we had last year. Despite that amount of talent, I mean, I feel like these guys could have gone and done a lot of that maybe without such high-level talent. I mean, there was some of it that, we looked at the whole second half of the year. You didn't even get much out of Arvell. I mean, imagine if you almost had an abundance, right? You couldn't even get to all of it.
Yeah, no kidding. I know. And then, Arvell, all of a sudden, teams were kind of scheming him up a little bit, and people are like, how come he's not getting 2 sacks a game anymore? It's like, they're scheming him up a little bit. Yeah, and then we both like Terry Moore a lot. It was funny when we were on the podcast last week with Bill and Doug. I thought I was going to be the only one of the 4 that said Terry Moore is my favorite guy they got in the portal. And you were even more exuberant. You're like, Terry Moore, no doubt about it. You also like, and Bill Landis also likes Terry Moore. I like the Doug pick, Connor Hawkins. You also like John Walker. I'm not quite as sold. I want to be sold. That'd be huge if he comes in and is like a one tech along with Will Smith Jr. His tape at UCF is okay, but he's got 2 years left. So I think he's going to be better than like a Tyrone Malone. But you seem pretty high on him. Talk more about John Walker.
I just, the way he moves, the athleticism, I think it's all there that when he gets with Larry, and and again, the 2 years plays into this with me a lot. This is me looking out for both years, not just like he's going to come in and be great, but it just seems to me at that particular position, we always see Larry take a guy like a Ty Hamilton and just turn him into a total dude. And I feel like John Walker has got all the ingredients he needs. And obviously a guy that, we know that he wanted. And that also plays a big part in it for me. A lot of it's trust. A lot of it's just, things we've seen over the years that make me feel very strongly about that one. But Terry Moore, Dave, I was just talking about this the other day. I was going through the 2024 team, the 2025 team, and the 2026 team, going through each unit and seeing, all right, which units are in the 2026 team, which units could potentially be better. And I got to safety and I'm like, all right, there's no chance 26 has a chance, right? Because you lose Caleb. But then I'm like, out of anybody in college football, the drop off, if you could like put somebody in there to make it the least painful, right? I think it would be Terry Moore. I don't know that there's anybody else I'd pick to say like, all right, the drop off from Caleb to somebody else is going to be huge. What's the least painful? I think it might be Terry Moore.
Yeah, very well said. Yeah, and like, Devin Sanchez playing as much as he did as a true freshman, I think he's going to make that big jump. It's hard to play corner as a true freshman. We don't see it very much. Now, we saw it with Denzel Burke. There's been a few exceptions. Before that, Jeff Okudah probably played the most as a true freshman. He didn't even play that much. So I think Sanchez is going to take that next step. Jermaine Matthews Jr., I kind of expected a little bit more out of him last year, but I'm really bullish on Jermaine Matthews Jr. as a senior. Some more of your thoughts on the corners. Miles Lockhart, another one.
Yeah. So, with Devin, no, it wasn't the freshman year that we all would have, hoped for. Right. But I kind of equated this to, so like Edric Houston last year coming in year 2, second year at the position. Well, he only got a little bit his freshman year, but I think we all just kind of had this faith that based on the pedigree, based on the size, that he was going to take this next big leap forward. And I was kind of talking about why we felt like that. The reason we feel like that is because we've seen it so many times. A guy with that pedigree that takes that next huge step in year 2 after playing a little bit as a freshman. We didn't see it out of Edric. When we look at Devin, I'm very bullish on it like you, just because we've seen it so many times. A guy that has those kind of immeasurables, that kind of size, the kind of intellect and the desire. This is all this guy cares about, right? Is being a great corner. That's it. And you pull that all together with the coaching he's going to get. I don't see any way that this is not a huge step forward for Sanchez. And then we talk about Jermaine, man. The guy, he's got all the intangibles, got beat a couple times late, and I think it kind of put a sour taste in everybody's mouth about him. A couple of big-time plays that didn't go his way. The dude's just a dog, man. And I think he can definitely take the next step forward. An Ohio guy, he's just there's so much to love about Jermaine. But I'm really enamored with freshman Jordan Thomas. Obviously, I love Jay Timmons. I think that he could be a potential guy. I think he's probably going to be the starting nickel in 2027. But these dudes, man, this room went from not so talented to really talented. Obviously, Dom Kelly as well. Like, I think it's loaded.
That's even with losing Aaron Scott and losing Bryce West.
I think it's an upgrade, Dave.
I do too. I'm gonna miss Aaron Scott as a gunner. He was really good at that.
Yeah,
but yeah, for what he was gonna command to stay, and he wasn't gonna play that much at corner, like you're saying. I mean, unless there are injuries. Linebackers. Then we'll move on to a different topic. And by the way, just like I said, guys, do yourself a favor after this show or after you watch Juck's show or whatever. Do yourself a favor and watch that Matt Patricia interview with McAfee and AJ Hawk and the guys. It's fantastic. Patricia is just, I don't know if everybody had the wrong impression of him or just working with Belichick kind of just made him kind of like curmudgeon, because he's such a cool guy now and he loves working with Ryan Day. But linebackers, obviously losing the 2 studs, but bringing in Christian Allegro from Wisconsin. I'm sure you feel the same way, my man. Riley Pettijohn is going to be an absolute stud. I can't wait to see him out there. Peyton Pierce, James Laurinaitis gushes about him. So again, kind of like what you were saying earlier. Is it going to be the star power of this past year? No, they're not going to be as good as Sonny and Arvell, but I still am bullish on this linebacking core.
I think that when we look at Sonny and Arvell, you got a couple of guys that can do everything, just those two guys, right? The pieces and parts that they've got in that linebacker room can do everything. Just there's not two guys that can do every single one of them. So when you want to play a certain style, when you want to go your 5-man front, Allegro can do that. Quay Rousseau can do that. You can add him into that group a little bit. Pettijohn is great coming off the edge, despite not being a really tall, long guy like you'd normally want. You throw in TJ Alford. I mean, there's a ton of pieces, parts here. We'll see who emerges. To me, it's one of the most exciting things looking forward to spring. When we look at, Allegro is kind of a wild card, man. I just watched a film breakdown of him not too long ago, and he's got some tools. He's got some serious tools, and he's powerful, pretty adequate speed, a little bit of a liability in coverage. But, each one of these guys adds something a little special. And I've seen some people getting down on Peyton Pierce here recently, saying that they don't think he can be the guy. Like, listen, I saw James Laurinaitis talk about him last year in the spring. You did too, Dave. The sparkle was in his eye when he talked about him. I trust James Laurinaitis' analysis of that more than anybody on the planet. So I'm going to go ahead and go with, Peyton's going to take that next step and be a guy that can certainly roll in and do a great job in that role as well.
Especially looking back on it now, like you said, like he's like, our top 3 linebackers, we know who for sure. It's Sonny, Arvell, and Peyton. And we'll see who number 4 is. Ended up being Pettijohn. He didn't want to talk up a true freshman quite yet in spring. But yeah, he was like, Peyton Pierce was right there. Not that he wasn't saying that he was as good as Arvell and Sonny, but he was like, those are our top 3 guys, no doubt about it. I love Peyton Pierce. I love football players with a wrestling background, man. It just
it's great, right?
It helps so much. And there's just like tons of examples of it. All right. Got to ask you about this. I even had a user on Bucknuts like private message me and ask me to talk about this. I'm like, great idea. Brendan Sorsby, UC quarterback, now transferred to Texas Tech. I think he's getting $4 or $5 million from Texas Tech to be their quarterback.
Yeah,
he had signed. This is so I'm so interested in how this turns out. This is going to be the precedent going forward, perhaps. So he signed a 2-year NIL deal with Cincinnati before last season, with 2 years, $2 million, with $1 million buyout. Which, if he left, he had to pay $1 million buyout, sign the deal. And initially it seemed like he was going to pay it back. Like when he announced he was going to Texas Tech, he thanked UC and it sounded like he was going to pay the $1 million back. I don't know if his agent decided, nope, it's null and void. But the Sorsby camp is not intending to pay. So UC, rightfully so, is suing Sorsby for $1 million. Your thoughts on this, Juck?
For one, I'll say to get that $1 million buyout in the contract means UC was paying him pretty damn well, which surprised me. If there's going to be $1 million buyout, they're paying him really good. Also in that contract, I thought it was really fair. There was no buyout to be expected had he gone to the NFL, only if he transferred, which I think is important to show like that was all done in good faith. And their camp is trying to say that this is illegal in the state of Ohio. They've not cited how that is. And we're not sure what their angle is on this play yet, but I think it's a real scumbag move for Sorsby to allow them to do this. No doubt when he was in contract negotiations with Texas Tech, this buyout was part of the equation. He got the extra $1 million to pay this buyout, assumingly, right, from Texas Tech's perspective. We'll pay that buyout. We'll handle it. He gets this extra $1 million, and now they want to pull this shady stuff. I love what UC's doing here. We've seen a couple of examples in the recent past with Georgia doing this with Damon Wilson. Wilson countersues. So that one's not settled yet. That's still going on. But we did see the successful attempt at keeping Damon Williams in Washington from the standard boilerplate Big Ten contract deal. And this obviously is the way to go. You've got to work out these buyouts with these guys right off the rip, and you got to enforce it. This is the only way we are going to see this stuff stop, or at least slow down a little bit. It's got to be part of the equation, right? That buyout, just like a coach, has to be part of the equation. And the only way to do it, Dave, is to enforce it in the court.
No doubt about it. And I hear a lot of people say, well, if they're not employees, how can you enforce it? Well, I always use this example. If I hire somebody to put a new roof on my house, they're not technically my employee, but I signed a contract, and if I give them money and they don't finish the job or it's a shoddy job, I can sue them and I'll likely win. Or if they do the job and I promise I'm going to pay them and I assigned, hey, I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars, and I decide, I'm not going to pay you, they would sue me and win. they wouldn't be my employees. You're right. I mean, I think these are, because a lot of people are wondering, is this actually enforceable? It should be. I don't see why it wouldn't be.
Oh, you and I can enter into a contract on anything. And as long as we go about it the right way, it's absolutely enforceable. This is standard business operation here to enter into two parties into a contract. You don't need to be an employee to enforce someone to honor a contract. This is, you have a contract for your car, for everything. This is the same thing. Two individual parties can enter into a contract. I'm really interested to see how this one works out, and good for UC, man. Hey, UC, go get them, man. I know there's a lot of UC folks that don't like us too much, but I always root for them, whatever. They're not threatening.
Right. I mean, they were obviously threatened by Ohio State. I feel the exact same way. Like, they're just like kind of almost like, they're not even little brother. They're kind of like little cousin. I don't know. Best. Maybe little third cousin or something like that. But not when Luke was there. I had more of a soft spot for him when Luke was there.
For sure.
Yeah, they love to hate us, but good on them. You're right. Good on them. And hopefully this sets a precedent. And really, it just makes Sorsby look bad, makes his camp look bad. I mean, Cody Campbell has this in his, couch cushions. He just give the $1 million to Cincinnati. I don't know why they're being so petty about this, but very curious to see how this gets resolved. All right, let's move along. Man, the combine. We knew Ohio State's guys were going to put on a show. They put on even more of a show. I mean, Sonny Styles jumping out of the gym. Again, not surprising, but it was still so cool to see. And then him and Arvell both running a 4.46. I will say this, Juck. When they were saying last year that Lorenzo Styles Jr. was the fastest guy in the team, I was like, I don't know if I totally believe that. Boy, was I wrong. Him running a 4.2, like what was it, a 4.26, something like that?
Yeah, they corrected it. Yeah, what's unique is when they did the times live, each one of those guys dropped down. When they did the official, we usually see it go the other way. So he finished with the 4.26, which was so cool. What I did notice was I went and looked at the 10-yard splits. And as far as all the safeties with the 10-yard splits, Lorenzo's 10-yard split just in the safeties this year was right in the middle, which, what do we see most out of guys that are playing on the football field? We see a sprint in a short distance. We don't see a 40-yard dash. And when we look at that, he's just average in 10 yards. So I think that's why it doesn't kind of jump off the page to us when we watch him play as a really fast player. It doesn't really translate unless he's going a long distance. And it makes total sense to me when I look at it like that as to why Lorenzo is someone that never really struck me on the field as a super fast guy. But yeah, we had heard that all along. Got Garrett Stover too, another one that's always very shocking when I hear about how fast he is. CJ Hicks said that's the only linebacker that couldn't beat him in a race, or that he couldn't beat in a race. That was always really surprising as well. But there's some of these guys that can just really get it going. Lorenzo obviously did. But watching Sonny, I felt was kind of an emotional moment. It was almost like this culmination of a guy that everybody watching this right now has known since he was, a sophomore in high school. And we all knew how it was going to go. And it kind of, this was the culmination of the dream. He did it all. And he even gave us a fourth year, right? So rarely do we see that fourth year in a guy that gets drafted as high as he's going to get drafted. We got it all from him. The national championship. He's a Buckeye legend. And that felt like a real, I don't know how to put it into words, but it just felt emotional to me to see that happen, watch the whole country fuss about him the way they did. It was really validating. It was really cool for him.
And all of those guys are classy young men. Sonny's like next level. He's just such a great guy. Yeah, so happy for him. And IGB, I feel like Davis and Igbinosun is not getting enough helium here. Now, maybe this is smokescreen season, and the GMs are not telling their sources, exactly what they think about IGB because they're hoping if you've got like a mid-second round pick, that would be a hell of a good second round pick. Some people have him going in the third round. I saw one that was a 3-round mock that didn't even have IGB. That was before the combine. I think he'd be a great second round pick. Third round would be an absolute steal, Juck.
Oh, you kidding me? Third round for him? Absolutely, man. Guy's physical. He measured out what? He was a true 6'2", right? So that's great. You got the measurables. The 40 time was really good. Wasn't, superb, but it was really good. And then it's the tape, man. The improvement from last year or from 2024 to 2025 was obviously noticeable. And he was the lockdown on the best defense in the country. I mean, the coaching he's got as well, in his background, he's got everything there that checks all the boxes. Like if I didn't know how they were in the draft as well as I know, and you said he was an early second rounder was his projection, I wouldn't think twice about it. It would make total sense to me. I think that maybe we'll see a surprise with him, and I kind of hope so. How about everybody trashing Carnell for this 40, Dave? I'm surprised that he ran. I don't even, you look at the other two, Jordan Tyson, he didn't run. Mekhi Lemon didn't run. I don't even know why he ran if he knew that was going to be the time, because we know how these nerds are with that 40 time. Speed has never been his game. He's a control guy. He can beat you running routes. He can create separation doing that. Contested catches. He had the highest contested catch rate in the country. It's just not a speed game. And he doesn't need to be a speed game. He's a tall, big dude with long limbs. And I'm just really surprised that he even ran that thing. Not surprised at the reaction, but it's just absurd to me when they try to tear guys down like this. Who are you going to draft over him? Smooth talking Mekhi Lemon. David, did you see that interview that guy gave? That was the weirdest thing. He talks to the media, and it was like he was trying to seduce them. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. You got to watch that. I'll send it to you.
I have not. I'll have to go and watch. I have not seen that.
It is bizarre.
I have to, instead of watching the McAfee, Matt Patricia interview again, I'll have to watch that. That's interesting. Yeah, and here's the thing. Also, just like you said, I mean, Carnell, it'd be one thing if he measured in at 6'1.5". He measured in at 6'3" even. I love how Ohio State is so accurate with their height and weights. Sometimes they're not doing their guys justice. Like, how was Sonny listed at 6'4" in Ohio?
Right.
The whole time I'm like, there's no way this guy is 6'4". He's absolutely.
You have said that forever, by the way. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So they got that one wrong. But I like how, they had Carnell listed exactly what he measured in at. And there's a lot of talk, Juck, that there was an error in his 40 time, that it actually was faster. He had a lot of scouts. Now, these were like, manually timed that had him in the 4.4s. There's a lot of talk that the machine, the computer screwed up on Carnell's time.
I've never seen that mentioned ever, Dave. Have you ever seen that mentioned before at the combine?
Never.
It's the first time I've ever seen this come out. Started with Schefter, Michigan guy on top of it. I've never seen this, but I saw that yesterday, and Field Yates backed him up, and he was like, yeah, NFL GMs, apparently they do this all themselves as well while they're there, and they all had him. Well, several of them had him at sub 4.5, which is all you need to be, and then there's no discussion about this at all. And that being the case, look, I got no doubt he's the first wide receiver off the board, and as a Browns fan, who my team's probably going to draft a tackle and a wide receiver, if they drafted another wide receiver over him, I'd be furious.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great for you guys. Get one of the top offensive linemen, maybe then trade up and get Carnell as well. Or take Carnell at 6 and hope you get a good lineman at what? What are you guys, 24 or 26 as well?
Yeah. Right in the early 20s.
Yeah. Good win for the basketball Buckeyes. That was huge. That was huge yesterday. Finally, a big win. Number 8 Purdue going down. That was a lot of fun. That was like old school Thad Matta era shot where a lot of the fans were Purdue fans, but man, it was loud in there. That was awesome. It
was, man. It's been a long time coming. It's been a rough stretch here recently. I thought that they were going to knock off one of these guys along the way, and then I kind of gave up hope, and there it was, man. Number 8. That was a great win. I just want to get in. I'm so sick of not being part of the dance in some capacity. It's just driving me nuts. And I feel like, obviously we know that this is a totally different game now. And almost everybody watching this is not going to want to sacrifice any money from football to go to basketball. But I still feel like you should be able to put together a tournament team at Ohio State, man.
And now I think because of that win, I don't think this is a hot take. If they take care of business at Penn State, which is never a sure thing going on the road in the Big Ten, but the Penn State's really bad, and then beat Indiana next week at home, I think they're a lock. You go 12-8 in the Big Ten, and you got the win over Purdue. Wisconsin's now a ranked team. That's considered a quad 1 win now. UCLA was a decent win. I think if you're 12-8 in the Big Ten, 12-8 in the Big Ten is what they would be with the win over Purdue. I think they're a lock.
I agree. I can't wait.
Juck Miletti, my man, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Like I said, it's been great getting to know you. You do a great job. The people love you, and did a great job on your debut on the Bucknuts Morning 5, my man. Thank you, sir.
Thanks so much, buddy. Appreciate you having me. Nutters of Buck, thank you so much. Enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Awesome. Thanks again to Juck. Thanks to all of you. We appreciate it very much. Dan will be with you tomorrow with the boys. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Go Bucs.